Aunt Claire. Hi, Talia.
Hi.
How are you guys doing today?
I'm good. It is finally hot in London, so makes me very happy to see the sun out and the weather is warmed up.
Love that for you. I know it's rare to get hot summer weather over there in London.
Exactly. Yeah, got to cherish it.
How are you doing over there in Anne Claire world? Anne Claire.
In Anne Claire world, we're doing fine. I mean, obviously, I'm not very far geographically from Talia, so I'm finally enjoying summer as well. So this is a bit like it's the return of the summer.
Yeah.
Which I'm not complaining about. I am hoping we're not going to go as high as we did earlier in the summer because we were kind of boiling at some point. But yeah, I'm not going to bitch about the sun. Sorry, I already started swearing.
Wow. Well, I'm already sweating. So.
Oh yeah, we can see that. You've got a droplet right here. I'm kidding.
Swearing and sweating within 30 seconds of recording. We are doing great.
This is a good start to season 2, Meg.
Yeah. Okay, so Anne Claire, can you explain what we're doing today?
So this is our very, very, very first guest interview on the Megan and Claire show. So yay for that. And we have Talia with us today. And actually, I'm not even going to introduce you, Talia. I'm just going to ask you to introduce yourself, please, if you don't mind.
Probably a lot easier. And people get stuck on my last name too. So I'm Talia Cecchele. I'm a registered dietitian and founder of TCN, which is the Talia Cecchele Nutrition Clinic, which is a virtual clinic of registered dietitians who specialise in eating disorders and disordered eating, primarily based in London, but we also have dietitians scattered across the globe, which is really cool, across quite a few continents, which means that we get to support people from around the world as well. I have been supporting the Recovery Collective since it started. So I guess I'm being part of the team from the beginning. And as part of that, I host a monthly nutrition session. So it originally started with more of a cooking session, but recently we've been doing meal support, which has been really cool.
Talia, oh my gosh. Can you believe it's been almost 3 years of the Recovery Collective and you've been there since day one? You were one of the first people I reached out to.
I can't believe that, actually. Yeah.
I think we had like a shared client and we met on a phone call one day and then it went from there.
It did. Because you were the first recovery coach I ever worked with. And I was like, what is this recovery coach thing? And then you reached out to me and you were like, hey, can we jump on a call and I'll introduce myself? And as you said, it just went from there.
Yes. Oh, well, we're so happy that we found you and that we could connect during the pandemic. And you have been such a major part of the Recovery Collective, just a very meaningful, important part, because you provide that dietitian and nutrition background to the community once a month. And so I love seeing how our calls have evolved. And now we're doing snack support, which is really helping people focus on exposing themselves to fear foods at different levels. So I was just curious if you could explain why exposure to fear foods in recovery is so important, because I know that's what we wanted to talk about today anyway.
When we think about recovery from a nutritional perspective, one of the key goals, as part of recovery is really to normalize your relationship with food and return to being someone who can eat intuitively rather than making food decisions that are dictated by food rules, black and white thinking, and food fears. So in order to become an intuitive eater, that means breaking down and overcoming any disordered eating or eating disorder thoughts or beliefs or rules in regards to nutrition and food. So it's a super important step to be an intuitive eater.
I completely agree. It's you need to start facing all the foods you've been avoiding out of fear. And that's why I love what you do with the community, because we're giving everyone a safe place once a month to at least face that fear. So there's a little accountability there.
Yeah. And I like that you're really sort of like holding our members' hand, like virtually, obviously, but to help them move into action. Because I mean, we're recovery coaches, right? So we're going to maybe discuss the fears and sort of like peel the layers and sort of help them cognitively sort of explore maybe like where the fears come from and whatnot. But there's really that, well, first of all, a lot of knowledge that we refer back to you for. And two, there's also like the actual doing, right? And doing it in a way where that space is held by someone who knows what they're talking about, who can sort of like make them feel how safe this actually is and sort of help maybe answer any question that might pop up is really, really key, because we can't just think about doing recovery. We actually have to do recovery.
Yeah, definitely. And I think the sessions too are very much an opportunity. It is, as much as we're eating and we're challenging a food, that it is a Q&A and people can absolutely pick my brains. And so it's always great when, as you said, and Claire, like people might have thoughts that come up during the session or questions that they've been sort of waiting to have answered. And then it generates a really good discussion. And I think that's really nice too, because, within the group, as we know, if one person's thinking something, a lot of people are probably thinking or have thought the same thing. So it's really nice for everyone to be in a space where they can relate to others and how, nutrition and food rules has been sort of like the eating disorder has impacted people's thoughts and beliefs about nutrition.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I think one of my favorite parts about the sessions is that we'll have a variety of people on these calls. Some people only come to your call, right? And then some people come to every call. And anyway, I just love it when someone maybe on the quieter side, like comes to the call and asks this really important, interesting nutrition question. Like I can tell they come with like this in mind and they're ready to ask it, and they get the full, however long it takes to interact with you and get their questions answered. And I think having access to a professional eating disorder specialized dietitian is so meaningful to the members.
Yeah, I think so too. And I think a lot of people that then come to the group recognize as well, like maybe the advice that they'd received or read from like a non-specialist, or even someone that said they were specialist but probably wasn't, like it, just that space to really get information that they can trust is, I think, such an amazing part of the collective and what's offered.
Talia, I'm not going to lie, as a coach, as you know, we use dialoguing as a tool a lot. And anytime there's like a dialogue that includes a fear food or some sort of like nutritional reference, I always sort of at some point ask my clients, like, is your eating disorder really the most qualified person in the room to have an opinion about this or not? And having like a specialized, qualified human, i.e. dietitian, right, working in the eating disorder field makes a massive difference. And some of the humans in the community only kind of have you, or they're sort of like, maybe they're shy in another setting to ask the question. And there you are, sort of like being that other voice that then they can sort of bring back into outside of even the session, be like, well, I've got this one human who actually kind of has the right to have an opinion about this. Who expressed it in this way. And I'm just going to go with that. Like, I'm going to put my trust in this human rather than my eating disorder, who most probably has been influenced by those lesser great sources that you mentioned earlier.
Yeah, exactly.
So true. So Talia, could you explain how someone might be able to approach challenging a fear food? I know in RRC, you also like stratify our challenges into levels. So could you explain maybe an example of how someone might approach challenging a fear food with levels involved?
Yeah, so we know for a lot of people that if there's, I think as we would all do in sessions when we're supporting people to start to overcome food rules and food fears, usually we might get a person to like brainstorm sort of a list and then make it into a bit of a hierarchy and start to challenge foods that feel safest to them. However, even within that sort of hierarchy of the least difficult to most difficult food as part of someone's recovery, there's still so many different ways a person can eat a food, so many different context situations. So that's why, that graded approach and the challenge, repeat is such a really important step to overcoming food rules and food fears. So as part of that graded approach, because what it means is that each time you make that fear food challenge a little bit harder, you've already got the baseline sort of confidence that you're slowly building upon and increasing your healthy self thoughts and beliefs around that food. So as part of the RC sessions, what I do is I do sort of break down into 3 levels. And of course, there's going to be many levels. Some people might have 10 or 15 levels, but to keep it simple, we break it down into 3 different, levels of how challenging a food might be. And I'm sort of basing that off, my experience of where people might feel safest to start and where people that are further along in their recovery might be able to then sort of be like, yeah, I'm going to go for the hardest level during this session. But what we say for all of these meal and snack support sessions is that it's really important to decide where you want to start as an individual, not to compare to anyone else, because everyone's sort of relationship to different foods is going to look different. So in the sessions, even if you're just turning up and you've got the food in front of you, that's a huge step. So, and the ideas behind the graded levels as well is that people can then take it away and repeat it after the session and keep working up towards the 3rd level if they started on level 1 during our call and keep repeating that over the weeks. Or it might be that sort of gives people inspiration as to, wow, level 3 is what a normal meal or a snack looks like. So that's what I'm going to start working towards.
Talia, I don't want to be annoying, but can you please expand a little bit more on the importance of repetition? Because I have this conversation on the regular with clients who say, well, I did that once, it's done. And it's like, yeah, that's not done. And I'm curious to hear it in your own words, even though I know you mentioned it sort of like in passing there, but if we could have like the detailed version of the explanation from the most qualified person in the room, that'd be so awesome.
Yeah. Thank you for putting me so high. So when we're thinking about any habits or beliefs or thought systems that we have, especially when it comes to ones that have been influenced by an eating disorder, these can be very ingrained. So people may have believed these thoughts about nutrition or certain foods for decades. And so eating a food one time is not going to suddenly turn that around. It's like, as children, we might believe in Santa Claus for many, many years. And then we might have one friend that's like, Santa Claus isn't real. And then you're like, no, it's not. So you have to, hear it and build evidence that, unfortunately, Santa Claus is not real.
What?
So it's just
what? We have to make this like a non-child television show. That's just more evidence for these poor children figuring out Santa isn't real. Talia just told them. Are you qualified to give that information, Talia? No, just
do you have proof for what you're saying, Talia?
I'm going to call Santa Claus right now. I'm going to talk to him.
I'll have to think of a better example next time. So we do need to, the way I approach food fears a lot of the time is looking at it as a science experiment, because the only way that you can start to, the Santa Claus example is so bad when I start to think about it, that when you start to build up new, nutrition information and a new belief, we tend to build up evidence to support that. So, for example, certain foods might be avoided or feared because there's this belief that if it's consumed, then it will lead to weight gain or body shape or size changing, or it might, be linked to a certain emotion or a feeling or an eating disorder, like compensatory behavior. So if I eat this, then I will binge, or if I eat this, then I will purge. So we really need to build up evidence that if I eat this food or if I break this rule, that won't necessarily happen, which is where repetition is really important to slowly challenge that rule or that belief. But then on the flip side as well, because Anne Claire, I also have clients that say that. So for example, if a high ranking fear food is something like pizza and a client of mine has it for the first time, I'm like, that's fantastic. And they're like, yeah, I'm all healed. I can eat pizza again. And I'm like, okay, well, can you go and eat pizza for breakfast? Or you've told me that you feel comfortable eating chocolate, but can you go and eat it at 10 in the morning? Or can you go and eat it at 2 a.m. when you come home after a really fun night out with your friends? So we have to think about, it's not just about the food. There's in so many layers around the food because context matters with nutrition. So yes, you told me you can eat a blueberry muffin, but was that a home-cooked blueberry muffin? Was it from Starbucks? Was it cooked by a friend? Was it a snack that was eaten at an airport? Like, there's so many different situations as to where a certain food might be eaten. So repetition is also really important to ensure that not only you can eat the food, but you can eat it in so many different situations, different times of the day, thinking about, your environment as well.
Yeah, I love that you bring up the food in context, because I'm just imagining someone with an eating disorder saying, yeah, I can have a blueberry muffin, but then they go to the most picturesque, cute bakery down the street and they have this perfect contained experience with a very organic muffin, right? And it's there's so many versions of blueberry muffin that person might be still very scared to approach. Like a blueberry muffin from McDonald's might be a super fear food compared to that very safe sounding experiential muffin from the pastry shop.
Yeah, absolutely.
Interesting.
Also curious to hear how someone might sort of make sure that they meet themselves where they are. Because I will also sometimes have clients who might come in and be like, so here's the meal plan or the guidelines, but what I really want is the blueberry muffin and the pizza. And it's yeah, but if we do that, then what is going to happen to the rest of this plan that you currently have? Because there's a reason and an order in which things are done. And this is typically where a dietitian comes in and sort of guides the things. But this is also an important part of this specific topic, because if you're challenging a fear food, let's say the pizza or that blueberry muffin, and that means that other things have to sort of not be part of the picture, you're not really honoring the point of the challenge. And so it's important to make sure that people meet themselves where they are, which is also where those different levels make a lot of sense in practice.
Yeah, absolutely. There's no, sort of putting yourself through all of the planning and then, having the fear food to then unfortunately engage in eating disorder behaviors such as restriction or other compensatory behaviors. It's sort of counterproductive. And that's why, I bang on about the RAVES approach. And I know that you guys do as well, is that you really, there's no, in my eyes, yes, you might start to increase in the variety of food that you're eating from the get-go. But if you're solely focusing on that and you're not even eating enough energy to nourish your body, then again, it's just not going to work. It's counterproductive. So in order to be at a really good, stage that you can say yeah, I am in a stable place. I am ready to really focus on overcoming my food fears and food rules. We need to have established a baseline, regular meals and snacks, and eating enough to meet your nutritional needs. Now, that's not weight restoration for everyone as well. It's really important to remember that not everyone is weight restoring as part of their recovery, but you can't be ideally when you're focusing on your food rules and your food fears, you're going to be pretty close to being at a healthy place for you in terms of your recovery. You've done some work on reducing compensatory behaviors. You've done a lot of the psychological work to really look at managing your emotions and your feelings to then be at a place that you can get really good evidence from challenging the food rules or food fears. So that is a stepwise approach. You've got the regularity, adequacy, and then you're looking at starting to delve into challenging fear food space by adding more variety, eating a bit more socially, spontaneously. And then the intuitive eating part is when you get to do all the contextual stuff in all the different scenarios as well. So it is really important for you, for anyone listening to just take a step back and think, well, which phase am I in? And really set yourself up to be in a good place to challenge food fears.
I think that's such a helpful reminder because I know YouTubers on YouTube and many influencers who are recovery vloggers, they create all these videos about challenging their fear foods. And it makes people think that that's the first thing you start to do when you decide to recover is like, I'm going to start having like a pint of ice cream, today, even though I'm not eating 3 meals and 3 snacks a day. Right. And then I think it sends the wrong message about where you need to be and like how things need to progress in recovery in order to build up to that place where you're switching things up and finding variety in your meals. And I think a big red flag that people need to think about when they do challenge themselves is my eating disorder going to corrupt this challenge, right? Like, how is my eating disorder going to get in the way of making this an authentic, intact, like high integrity challenge? And I don't know, I just want to call everyone out who's listening, watching right now is like, maybe you're not quite there yet. If your eating disorder keeps telling you need to restrict all day leading up to the challenge or compensate with doing XYZ before, right? So, or after. So,
and that's okay to not be at that stage yet. I think a lot of people, and I completely understand like the desire to just do the recovery, return to being an intuitive eater, but we can't just jump there. We have to walk there and take the steps in order to take that leap into that next phase.
Amazing. So before we wrap up, Talia, I wanted to ask you to share some final words of wisdom to people listening today about challenging fear foods. I'd love to hear your last finalized words.
Yeah.
Parting words.
Parting words of wisdom. Take it at a pace that is going to work for you. And I think a lot of people always ask me, well, like, how do I keep moving forward? How do I hold myself accountable as well? And I think it is really important, that's where planning challenges into the day, into the week is really important, because that can also help then with adding something in and slowly building on the challenge. Whereas if there's not, I guess it can go 2 ways. Some people, it works really well to just sort of make it more spontaneous. And if a food appears, to sort of take that in the moment and roll with it. Whereas other people work best when it's really well planned. So I guess just trying to think about what's going to work best for you. Hold yourself accountable. If you need to do it with someone, eat a meal or snack with someone, that can be super helpful as well. And try not to compare your recovery pace with anyone else's.
Such a good reminder. So many good reminders there. So Talia, thank you so much for joining us today. And Anne-Claire, thank you for being here again. You keep showing up.
It's like, God damn it, I'm trying to get rid of her, but she's sticking to my boot like a poop.
All right. Well, I hope you both have a beautiful rest of your day. And for everyone watching, big reminder, the Recovery Collective is opening doors to new members, and we will be enrolling new members between September 20th and October 1st. So you have about 10, 11-ish days to get yourself inside the community before doors close for several months. And when you join, you will be welcomed with open arms by me, Talia, and Anne-Claire, and our peer mentors. And you'll actually get to work with us live on a monthly basis, which is really cool. Anything you guys want to add about that?
No, that was great.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we'll see everybody inside the Recovery Collective starting September 20th. And I hope you guys have a beautiful rest of your day.
Thank you.